Hello, everyone. My name is Chase Harrison. I'm the CEO of Alta Labs, and I'm joined by our CTO, Jeff Hansen. And we have a very special guest for you today, Keith Parsons from WLPC. Keith, thanks for being with us today.
Oh, glad to be here.
Appreciate you taking the time. This is our 18th live stream. I still can't believe that number climbs up higher and higher every time we do this, but we've been doing this for almost 2 years. It's kind of crazy. But if this is your first Alta Labs live stream, a couple of quick housekeeping items for you. We will hold a live Q&A at the very end of this. So if you have any questions that you'd like to ask Keith or Jeff or myself, anything about what Keith does or about Alta, features that we cover or talk about, pop those into whatever social media platform you're tuning in from, and that'll aggregate right up here into our StreamYard platform, and we'll pop those questions on the screen and get them answered. If you are watching this after the live stream concludes and you still have some questions, you're always welcome to email those at sales@alta.inc. Again, for us or Keith, and we will route those questions to Keith if they come in after the fact. And we do, again, record these. If you like what you see today and want to go back and look at any of the previous live streams, they are available on our YouTube channel, Facebook, LinkedIn, just under our account. So we'd love to have you check those out if you're interested. We also have a couple of announcements. First of all, we have our March Installer of the Month. We'd like to announce and congratulate Gazon Communications out of India. They have knocked down some pretty sizable Alta Labs projects, even getting into some universities. And we appreciate Gazon and all of their support in the India marketplace. And Gazon, our team, will be in touch with you and your team to get out the award and some shirts here in very short order, next couple of days. Also, if you're interested in joining or coming out and taking a look at Alta Labs at any of our industry events, where we will actually be showing off, obviously, Alta Labs and all of the new products that we have launched recently. In April 28th through the 30th, we will actually be in Mumbai, India at the Smart Home Expo. In the exact same time frame, we'll be in Birmingham, in the United Kingdom at the security event. And then there is a distributor show in Pittsburgh. It's the Davis Expo, April 7th. And then we have a Midwest Tech Expo in both Kansas City and St. Louis, and that's May 12th and May 14th. And then finally, at the very end of May, May 28th, we will be at the Northern California CI Expo. So if you are in any of those markets, we'd love to have you come out and learn a little bit more about Alta Labs, talk to us, get all your questions answered, and take a look at the new gear. And also, we, as per usual, we are doing a giveaway. At the end of this live stream. If you'd like to participate in that, we actually are going to be giving away our brand new 12-port SFP Plus aggregation switch, fiber switch, depending on what you want to call it, core switch, some would call it. We're also giving away a shirt and a hat. So if you want to email your first and last name to social@alta.inc, and our team, Landon specifically, will get that into our little fancy little spinner, and then we'll give away those prizes here at the very end of this event. But that's it for housekeeping items. Thank you again for bearing with me. I now want to turn the time over to Jeff. He has some brand new features built into the platform, and then we'll do what all of you really came for, and we'll talk to Keith and get to know him and what he does. So, Jeff, go ahead and take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chase. Excited to be here. So I'm going to go over a few new features that we launched since our last all call. First one is the WAN status on the dashboard. So if you go and log into any of your Alta Labs sites, you'll see a new widget here. It's called the WAN status. This allows you to do a speed test on your connection. So by default, it'll just show you the traffic that's going up and down on your WAN ports. So you can focus on, you can actually choose which port to focus on if you have multi-WAN. You can also pull open that specific port, edit that WAN settings, all very easily from that widget. It also tells you, your public IP address. So this wouldn't necessarily be the IP address on your Route 10, but the public IP that you use for the world for IPv4. Shows your latency, and then it also has some information from the last speed test that was run. Once you've run a speed test, you can actually choose between several different servers. Now we use a company called MLabs, which is different from like the standard Ookla speed test. They have their own infrastructure and set of servers that they use for doing speed tests. And so once you've run a test, it'll actually populate this with the four most closest servers to you. So if you aren't getting good luck with the server that it automatically picks, you can actually pick a different one, and you can kind of get an idea of where it's at. So like I'm in Salt Lake City. This one would be in Las Vegas, and then we have a couple others in Denver. But to run the speed test, you do have to have a Route 10 on an Alta Labs site, and you just click the speed test button, and it'll run live right here. So this is running over my internet connection right now. You can see I have Google Fiber getting about 1 gigabit, and then we'll let it finish, do upload. And then it stores this graph, so the next time you log in, if you just want to look at the last speed test, you can just click on speed test, and then of course you can run it again if you want. So that's about it for the WAN status dashboard. I think I pretty much covered it. So that's really cool. That runs right on the Route 10 on your wired connection there. The next feature I want to go over quickly is the site location. So you'll also see this widget here. This is my office in Hawaii. No, not really, but I picked my office there for the time being. Just for Waimea Bay is a beautiful place, so yeah, everyone should go there.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can set your location here. So once you've logged in, if you haven't set the location, it'll have a little button where you can set the location. You can edit it right here. You just type in, your location. This does use Google Maps, so it has all the efficiencies of figuring out where you are based on where you're coming from on your internet connection. That'll get improved as time goes on as well. But it's very easy to set the site, set the location. You just hit check there. So that's for an individual site. You can also see this on a big map with all of your sites. So in our site manager, we also added the map there. So if you have a bunch of sites across the world, it will by default zoom all the way out so that you can see all of your sites across the world. As you zoom in, it'll group these clusters. And then as you get closer and closer, you can go into each of these. And then if you want to click on a certain site, it'll actually show you the icon that you've assigned for that site on the little pointer here on the map, and it'll take you right to that site from here. You can also use this to very quickly assign all of the different sites to different locations. So if you go on here and click each of the sites, you can go in, type the address of the site, hit save, and then very quickly go through your entire list and assign all the sites. And then if you want to come in here and just pick a location very quickly from the map, that's really easy to do. So the other thing you can do is, if you want to opt out of this, we've had several people ask for that. You can also go into the system settings and go ahead and turn off the sites here, the site maps. It's in the settings down here. Let's see. Yeah, dashboard site location. You just turn that off if you don't want to do that at all. And that's totally fine too, up to you. We like to give you options. So that's about it for the site location. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out right now during our call or later. The next one is we also have been adding new features to the Route 10. So this is a feature called policy-based routing. So you might have noticed in the last month, there's a new button here on the firewall. So this is also available to those users who have a Route 10. We have an easy to use way to configure policy-based routing. So the way this works is you do have to pick a protocol. Most people are going to do TCP for most things. We did also add firewall groups within the last couple of months, and we detailed that on our last call. But yeah, so if you want to, if the source IP matches a certain subnet, so like if you have a certain VLAN that you want all the traffic from that VLAN to go over a certain WAN, you can do that here. So you just type in your subnet of your VLAN. If you want to do certain applications, so if you have a source port or destination port that you want to match your traffic to and forward that over a certain WAN, you can do that as well. And then by default, we do make this traffic sticky. Most sites, especially like bank sites, a lot of web servers will require you to come from the same IP address when you're doing a lot of transactions with them on the web. And so in order to not have any user experience issues there, we default to sticky, so that once you've started a connection basically with a bank website or some other website that requires it to be sticky, it will continue to operate normally. So that's been a long coming feature that a lot of people have asked about. It's been available in the CLI for a while. Some people have figured out how to do that, but now you can do it right up in the UI. So pretty excited about that. The other cool thing that was also released in the last, let's see, a couple days was firewall groups that allow you to filter based on the domain name. So let's say you want to filter all of alta.inc and make all of that traffic. So this is an IPv4 rule. So you'd want to make sure that you include v4 in the name if you want to be able to do both rules at the same time. What this will do is it'll create a rule, and then you can choose that rule from the list of options here. And so that would say if the destination is start.alta.inc on the DNS resolution, it'll force all of that traffic over a certain LAN. So let's say you have a redundant WAN and you want all your Facebook traffic or other traffic that you don't necessarily want on your main WAN, you can force that to a certain WAN. So that's really cool too. If you have questions about that, just reach out. And then lastly, we also launched passkey support. So we've had 2FA or MFA for quite a while now. And you can enable those from the account page here. Right, you can do app-based. So I use Authy, love that app, or SMS-based if you want that. We also have this new option called passkeys. And this allows you to not use a password at all when you're logging in. Passkeys are stored on a device or in a cloud service, but it's also tied to your biometric information. So it either uses a fingerprint or a face scan or something like that. So it's got 2FA built into the technology. And with that, see how I have my iCloud keychain here. I can use that. I can log out. Go ahead and it autofills my email, but you can actually get rid of the password here. And I'm going to use the passkey and then put my fingerprint in. And there we go. So it logged me in without using any passwords. There are a couple caveats with that. You can't use the MFA that's built in right now and passkeys at the same time, but we're working on that. But you can use as many passkeys as you want. So pretty handy feature there for adding more security to your authentication there. And that covers all the features that we released in the last month. So yeah, if you have any questions, just let us know.
Plenty of good questions rolling in. Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, we just a friendly reminder, a couple things really quick before we jump in and start chatting with Keith. First of all is we are doing a giveaway. So if you're just joining us, email social@alta.inc with your first and last name, and we'll get you in on the giveaway. Today, we're giving away an S12, our new 12-port SMP Plus switch, as well as a shirt and a hat for second and third place. But anyways, Keith, again, thank you for being with us today.
Glad to be here.
Maybe let's start out, Keith. For those maybe that are tuning in that are Alta Labs fan and don't know about you, we'd love to hear your backstory, right? Where do you come from? How did you get into networking? I mean, I kind of view you as like a godfather, right, of networking. You know many things. You know a lot of players. You've been there, done that. I mean, big stadiums, big deployments. Yeah,
I think you've been a godfather, right? So
yeah. And that's just grandfather, not godfather. That's what happens when you get white hair. That's awesome. I've been doing Wi-Fi for over 25 years now, so I feel like the old man in the group. And I fell in love with Wi-Fi, and there's a funny story. Back in the early 2000 or so, I was trying to decide on should I focus my career in Wi-Fi or security, because I was really into pen testing and a whole bunch of security stuff at the time. And I was with a lady by the name of Laura Chappell. She's really famous for packet level analysis. And we were at some dinner at a place in New York City. And she's like, what are you going to do with your life? Because I was complaining, I do all these things, and what should I do? And she goes, come on, Keith, just make a decision. Wireless or wired? Are you going to security or wireless? And I said, I can't decide. So she reaches down her purse, pulls out a quarter and says, heads, it's wireless. And it was heads. So 25 years later, it's still following up from that one coin toss.
That's impressive.
But wireless is just cool. It has given me an amazing career in that since everyone needs Wi-Fi, every business around the world, I've been to, 120 countries now doing Wi-Fi, 18,000 feet underground in a mine, to flying at 35,000 feet in a private jet specifically to get their Wi-Fi to work that didn't work in that one situation. So I've been above the Arctic Circle, and I even did some work on McMurdo Station in Antarctica. So it's taken me around the world to be able to fix Wi-Fi. And it's the one thing it's solved in my own personal life is, and I've never said I have ADHD, but I get bored sometimes with things. And so I've gone through seasons of like, there was a time when I was into heavy industry. So mines, big container farms where they unload a container off a ship and put it onto a train. So then I got into train yards for a long time, and then got into containers in container ships, and then added refrigeration. Then went, oh wait, there's refrigerators. So did a place that has 20,000 frozen chickens underground. So I've got to see all sorts of really cool things. For a while, it was billionaire homes. So I didn't even know there's an entire industry supporting billionaires in their houses.
Wow.
And they all need Wi-Fi. So you have to go and help those guys do their Wi-Fi. Offices, hospitals, indoor, outdoor. A little while ago, I did a Bitcoin mining farm.
Oh,
How else would you get into all these cool places? So
Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
Wi-Fi's totally changed the whole arc of my career, and it's been very, very enjoyable.
Wow. So, I mean, is there kind of one common theme or denominator, like where, I mean, from the Antarctica right into a frozen chicken facility? Is there like a common issue that you see across all these, or is every one of these just like completely unique, different issues that you're solving?
This is going to just sound really boring, but the basics that I learned in the early 2000s about how Wi-Fi works are still the number one problems that people have today.
Really?
Co-channel contention. How Wi-Fi actually works isn't that hard to understand, but most people don't spend the time to figure out how it does it. So I did one in Dubai, and they showed off this huge data center, and they had racks and racks of brand new 6,500 Cisco racks, and they had a redundant one, and then they had a third one just in case the second one didn't work. So they'd obviously spent a lot of money. And they're like, and what's wrong with our Wi-Fi? And I went, well, why are you using D-Link in a 2 million square feet mall? And their answer was, well, it works at home. Well, this isn't your home. And why don't you have a Cisco 6500 in your home? Well, that's too expensive. So why did you buy it here? And there's just this disconnect that networking is hard, but Wi-Fi is easy. And the issue is Wi-Fi is easy in a small scale.
Yeah.
The larger you make the scale, the complexity goes up exponentially. So LPVs, very large public venues, are extremely difficult, not because the Wi-Fi changed, but because we have a constraint in RF. We only have a limited amount of RF space.
Yeah.
Even now with 6 gig, it's still limited. And we run into that over and over again. And the idea that for, 20, 30 years in the wired network, if you needed more capacity, you added more switch ports. You can't do that with Wi-Fi. Just adding more APs doesn't give you more capacity. You think it does until you get into the fundamentals. So in 25 years of doing this, it's still the fundamentals.
Still
They
I'm
haven't,
really
they haven't
curious.
changed. There's new
So-
fancy things, but the
Yeah.
basics are still the basics.
Got it.
Question I had is, and I've dealt with a lot of Wi-Fi bugs over the years. I'm curious, in your estimation, like how many of the major issues that you've dealt with have been design related versus like vendor bugs? I mean, there's lots of vendor bugs out there. Wi-Fi is very complicated, as we all know. It's hard to get it just right. So, I mean, is it a high percentage? Is it low? I'm just curious.
The problem is if it's a vendor bug, they're really hard to find because they don't want to take responsibility.
Yeah.
And it could be the Wi-Fi client has firmware problem. Could be the AP that the associated has a firmware problem. Could be the controller behind that has a firmware problem. And those are difficult because they're supposed to work a certain way. And then when they don't, you go look at the 802.11 specs from the IEEE out of 7,000 pages and find the one thing and go, oh, this is optional.
Yeah.
So they weren't required to do it anyway. but then the client wasn't required to do it. And so they have this ships passing through the night thing. And until you can prove who did it, which means that's a lot of packet captures and then send them back to both sides. Yeah, those are the hardest ones to fix, but they're not the most prevalent. The most prevalent are just bad design. They just put up too many APs. They don't do the channel plan right. They have a 40 megahertz channel, and they have a OBSS condition where you have one primary high and the next channel has a primary low. And a lot of RRMs today, the radio resource management, treat those as two separate channels, but they're both sharing the same 40. So if they don't listen on their primaries and then they talk, and the other one listens on its primary, but you weren't listening to it and they talk, then you have this OBSS condition. And it was a self-induced problem because the vendor didn't understand that one little trick. But as a consultant, I just fire up Adrian's Wi-Fi Explorer and you look at the screen and there's a little hash mark where the primaries, and you go, wait, there's two. There's a 40 or an 80 and there's every primary in each one. Why did they do it that way? And you ask them, they went, oh, because they're different. So again, back to the fundamentals. That hasn't changed since the first 40 megahertz channel we got back in 2005. So 20 years of this one problem, and it still exists.
Still exists. Wow.
Yeah,
that's incredible. Sense. So Keith, obviously you've been all over the world, but you've also got a would you call it a community or a company, WLPC, that's WirelessLAN Professional. Is that right? That conference. That's right.
Yeah. So I have a company, WirelessLAN Professionals is just the name of my company. And we've been doing consulting for 20, 25 years, fixing Wi-Fi and doing designs, whatever. About 13 years ago, I thought, I'm tired of going to conferences. And I don't mean to be misogynistic, but I felt a little like a woman because when I walk in a conference, people keep looking at my chest. Because they want to read my name and they want to see what company you're with, and should I spend any time looking at you, or how much should I pay attention to you because I want to scan your badge. Your badge is the most important thing. Like, no, look in my eyes. I'm right here. Mm-hmm. I want the booth person to talk to me because I have a question for them, not am I the thing being sold. So at a lot of conferences, if you didn't pay to go to the conference, you are what's being sold. Your access. And so people want to scan your badge and do all those things. So I thought I should have a conference that's just people who love Wi-Fi and no vendors. So obviously we have vendors because Jeff's been there. You come as an individual, but that's what it is. So we don't have any vendor sponsors of any kind. We don't scan badges. We don't do any of that kind of thing. We don't let you buy a speaking slot. It's just Wi-Fi people who want to get together and hang out with other Wi-Fi people. And amazingly and luckily for me, there's a bunch of people who like to do the exact same thing I do. And every year we try to make the conference a little better. And we do that by just asking the attendees, what would you like? And then we give them what they wanted. And so they wanted more hands-on. So we added deep dives. They wanted, well, we want to see vendors, but we don't want them to see us. So we added evening events where you could choose whether or not to go to a vendor's event, but you didn't have to. Actually, most people still go because there's really cool things happening at the vendor events at night. But it's just made for people who like Wi-Fi to hang out with other people who like Wi-Fi. And I'm happy that there's been a community that kind of grew around that. So WLPC isn't a company. It's just a conference. And it's amazing how little effort it actually takes to put on a conference.
Yeah.
I go to some big one, Cisco Live or Aruba Atmosphere, and they have literally hundreds of workers. And we put on WLPC with probably less than 20% of my time. Matthew probably puts in 70% of his time. Fernay puts in maybe 10 or 20 of his time. And then we have volunteers, and that's it. So it's actually a really easy conference to put on because the people just like doing it. We don't have to induce them. I also was deathly afraid the first conference that I had to put money out for the hotel, and hotels are the bane of my existence, just to say. I hate hotels. And that was 6 months before we even had registrations. That was a scary time.
Sure.
So we want the attendees to want to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So luckily it's turned out we don't offer any like early bird pricing. We don't change the pricing. There's just one day for the fall one. I mean, for the US one, it happens to be December 15th. December 15th, we open registration, and then within 2 hours, we've sold 85% of the seats.
Oh.
Just like, and then people go, how come there's no more seats? Because you didn't sign up on that one day. Because I was going to go and risk more money with the hotel if we want. So we've been growing maybe 10% a year. And that's 100% because I want to maintain that cap on the hotel. I don't want to risk too much money. So that's the conference. We like it. You've been there. What do you think about it?
I love it. Yeah. I mean, I love just, we talk about a lot of problems that people are having in the Wi-Fi industry, tech tips and techniques. I love the organic nature, like the tools, Adrian Granados, the Wi-Fi Explorer. It's really cool to find out the tools that people are actually using to perfect their Wi-Fi in their industries. And it's really cool to hear the stories of, how people have accomplished stadium Wi-Fi in various venues and different things like that. And everybody there is really smart. So sometimes I feel like, and I learned a bunch of stuff in my deep dive. We talked about wireless security. I didn't even realize.
Oh, you had JJ's class?
Yeah. It was awesome. But I learned that, I don't know why I didn't know it, but OWE has 2 BSSIDs, right? Like I didn't even know that at all. So definitely learned a bunch of stuff while I was at the conference, and a lot of really smart people to glean information from. So yeah, it's a blast to attend.
For a lot of people who are afraid to speak at a conference, they're like, but there's so many smart people there. Yeah, and they're all also dumb in the things they know how to do. We thought we were doing really good. We had this authentication course on doing Passpoint, and so in the middle of that, we're working at it, and we happened to find Alta Labs. You had solved the problem in this little teeny script. We had worked all this time figuring out how to do it on a Cisco, and Aruba, and a Ruckus, and they had all these steps, and we were documenting them all up. And each of them some of them took 20 pages of steps to accomplish. And in Alta Labs, it was, oh, you want that turned on? Click.
Yeah, I mean, that's our goal, right?
So you're not, you are the smartest person in that room at that time.
Yeah, love it.
No,
So
we help people see that and see, how, because I've tried to configure Passpoint manually, and it can be very frustrating. But yeah, when you have something that just does it for you automatically, it's game changing.
But yours was an elegant solution, because it wasn't that it was automatic. It was just easy. Yeah. That you'd done all the hard work in writing all the lines that need to get changed in that actual code. And then, all you really had to do is change a couple of variables. And so you just made that simple.
We have several options as well. Yeah.
And by the way, if you're not using Passpoint, you should.
Yeah, agreed. So Keith, Jeff, obviously, unfortunately, I have not been to one of those shows, but I'm sure a lot of our listeners are probably wondering, is this a show for them? So if those may be on the fence, why would they want to come to the show, and where can they learn more? Where would they sign up, Keith? Do they need to kind of subscribe to a newsletter to hear when the registration opens up? Or
yeah, so we have a newsletter we put out. You can go to thewlpc.com is the conference website, or wlanpros.com, and either of those you can sign up for the newsletter. We send out a weekly newsletter. And that's basically the only place we ever announce it, except on LinkedIn or Twitter or X, whatever you want. We'll do that. But we're not really good marketing people at all, so you kind of have to want it. So the easiest way is if you just sign up for the newsletter, then every week you'll get a thing on Friday about some cool Wi-Fi, and that's how we announce it. We have one in October in Prague, and that registration for that won't happen until like August 15th is that cutoff date. Prior to that, we do kind of a crazy thing to get who's going to speak at the conference. We put out a call for presentations. That's going to be around May sometime. We'll post it on LinkedIn and our website, and then people will submit a presentation idea. And then we take those and put it into a survey. We send the survey out to, usually there's 700-800 people answer the survey of potential attendees. And then we let that vote dictate who gets to speak and who gets to speak the longest. So we have some half-hour sessions, we have 20-minute sessions, and then something we found that works really, really well is we have 10-minute sessions. And you think, how can I even get a concept across in 10 minutes? That's just a short period of time. But here's the benefit. One, if you're sitting in an audience and you're bored with the topic the speaker's speaking, and you go, oh, maybe I should go get a drink. But you realize they're going to change in just 7 minutes from now. There'll be a new concept, so people don't move. So by making them shorter, we get more people to stay in the audience. We have well over 95% of attendees are sitting in the sessions listening. They're not out in the halls like you are in some conferences because you didn't want to sit through that one. So short is good. For people who have given like a 30-minute presentation before, we show them how they can deliver that content in only 10 minutes. Because you get rid of all of the fluff. One of the things we have in our industry is something called BYOD, is bring your own device. A lot of presenters will start with, let me explain what a BYOD is. You know, some people have a Mac and some people have a Android and other people have this. And when they bring them home, then we have these problems. Everyone in the audience understands what a BYOD is. Don't waste any time talking about that because there's nothing new. Second, we don't care where you went to school, who you talked to, how you got to where you are right now. You can say, my name is Keith Parsons and I run WLPC in literally 10 seconds of your 10 minutes. And then you're done. And then you can dedicate 9 minutes and 45 seconds to the important things. Now, one thing I learned in MBA school a long time ago, I had an instructor who was an English teacher, and this was kind of prescient of her to bring this up. She said, you've been taught how to give a presentation or how to write a document wrong your entire life. And so I'd been through 12 years of school. I'd been to college for 4 years more. I'm now in an MBA class, and I think I know how to write a document. And this English teacher is telling me, and I'd also had 7 years of business experience before I got in there. And she said, people's attention span is so short, you lead with the conclusion, and everyone in the room's like, what? No, we had to start with what is the hypothesis we wanted to put out. And then we're going to talk about how we did it and where all the data came from. And then we lead up to this brilliant conclusion at the end. And she's like, no, email is going to take over and conclusions have to be up front. So when you present, you give your conclusion first. When you write an email, you put your conclusion first. When you write a report, you put your conclusion first. So in a 10 talk, it's just your conclusion. We don't need to know how you got there. We just need to know the really cool information, which is how then people come and attend and go, I learned so much in a little piece of time because we take the fluff out. Additionally, we give all of our presenters the opportunity to share their presentation on our YouTube channel. And about 98% pick it. Some don't because of legal reasons that they can only give a live presentation. But 98% of all our presentations are still available on our YouTube channel today. And we've had thousands of them. And I think that's what kind of builds the community idea is I've always said, knowledge is like manure. If you spread it around, it will help things grow. If you try to hold on to it, you just stink.
That's great. I love that you're taking the fluff out too. All about saving time. So, I mean, it sounds like, Keith, the topics are really variable, kind of changes show by show, but really kind of to summarize, right? The WLPC, if you want to come in and just have your mind blown wide open as far as problems that the industry's facing and kind of bring everything back to fundamentals, WLPC is for you, right? It's really, you should definitely consider it.
If you like Wi-Fi and tech, yes, come and you will find an entire community of people who are just like you that you didn't think. Because one of the things we found in a lot of places around the world is there might be an IT specialist in a school district or working in a hospital, and they kind of like Wi-Fi, but that's only a portion of their job. They have stuff to do the route switch and some even still have to do tech support or help desk kind of things. And yet when they come to WPC, they find there's other people who like the same things I like, and then you just hang out with them and you can talk. And I have this problem. I speak in acronyms because it's so much more effective. You don't say co-channel contention, you just say CCC. You don't say vendor on vendor violence, you just say VVV. And sorry, we don't allow vendor on vendor violence in our conference, because just because one vendor it competes with another vendor, when they come to our vendor neutral conference, they're all the same. And amazingly, if you work at Cisco one week or Ubiquity, you might be at Alta Labs the next month, who knows? So don't be attacking any vendor. It's just, let's talk about the tech. So that's why we built it. We still keep it pretty tight. We have sold out every one we've done. 37 or so we've done so far, and every single one's been sold out just because we stopped selling tickets.
Yeah,
it's an easy metric to hit when you stop selling.
That's great.
I wanted to ask you real quick. I mean, obviously, Wi-Fi Explorer is a great tool. Are there any other tools that you found to be extremely useful? I know you have your toolbox, right? Of like, if I had $1,000, what could I most effectively get done with my Wi-Fi job?
And that post on how to have a Wi-Fi toolbox for less than $1,000 has had nearly 1/3 people download it.
Wow.
So that's a lot bigger audience than I thought would be out there.
Oh, that's on LinkedIn.
Just posting it out there. Yeah, that was just on LinkedIn alone. I like my tools, and this is a little story. My daughter's in 3rd grade. I go to her school, and all the other students, every week they let some parents come, and the child is up, and my dad's a lawyer. He works here. My dad's a fireman. And there was a lawyer and a fireman and a doctor all right in front of me. And then my daughter gets up and she looks at me and she looks at the teacher and she looks back at me, and teacher's like, what does he do? She goes, he figures things out.
Oh, I love it.
Okay, I'll take that. That's a good definition. And the reason I bring this up is in Wi-Fi, our job is to fix the invisible that changes people's lives. They need internet to do what they do. Everyone, my wife, my grandparents need internet. It gets to them over Wi-Fi, but you can't see it, touch it, hear it, feel it, smell it. There's nothing in our human senses that allows us to interact with Wi-Fi without a tool. So we need spectrum analyzers to see the raw RF. We need packet decoders to take what's in the RF that's actually in the bits that turns and decodes them into something we can use. Thus, I'm all into the tools because I can't do it myself. Mm-hmm. And the tools allow us to see things that are invisible. So I like Adrian's tool, Wi-Fi Explorer Pro. Yeah. It's probably my #1 go-to. I like NetViews, NETVIEWS, because it's a new one. I was at a conference and I met Bill Bushong, who does this. He's been troubleshooting Wi-Fi for nearly as long as I have. And he had some internal tools he used with his team. And he showed it to me. I went, you need to share that with the world. And so he did. And so now we have Net Tools, and you can run that as well. I like Orb for the fact we're in the middle of most of us live in conference calls like this. Mm-hmm. And I like seeing an Orb score right on my screen. And when I see an Orb score, right now, I'm getting an 89 on my network connection. If there was anything that changed on screen, like somebody's face wobbles or that you hear sound, I look up and I go, oh, it's not me. I feel so much better. If my score was a 47, I'd be like, oh, sorry, maybe I need to hook up my Ethernet cable. But I like it just because it sits in my face telling me, you're okay. It's not you, it's somebody else. So I like those kind of tools. Wireshark is, I live, breathe, and die in there. That's where you find answers. But Wi-Fi Explorer Pro, the reason I use that is because it's so visual. You just look at it and I can solve problems like literally I'll go on site, I'll fire up Wi-Fi Explorer Pro, I look at the screen, I look at the customer, I said, why are you doing X? Because I just saw it. Inside of 15 seconds, I'm asking them, why did you do this stupid thing? And they're like, well, we used to do, I'm like, you don't need 802.11b anymore. it's been literally 2 decades since they made a B-only device.
Yeah.
But I thought we should. I'm like, really? When you're in college, I was at a college, actually, a university, and they still had B turned on.
Oh.
And I asked them why, and they said, well, we're a university, we're a state school. We have to support anything anyone comes into. And I went, you know, those freshmen that just came in, will you allow them to use a crayon to turn in their thesis? They're like, they would never use a crayon. Well, the last time they were old enough to use a crayon was the same time we had 811B. So you're not going to allow it in paper, don't allow it in the air.
Yeah, yep. It's a good point. I love it. So, Keith, and we kind of touched on this at the beginning, but one of the questions I had was, you know, whether it's a medium deployment or high density deployment or even a low density, you know, what would you say is like the most valuable tip or couple of tips, right, from the guys listening in? Is obviously we've heard channel congestion, conflicting channels, that sort of thing. But yeah, if you wouldn't mind a couple of quick pointers so our audience can maybe take a look at what they're doing and realizing maybe they're doing it incorrectly and they can improve.
So having done this for well over 2.5 decades now, I codified what I would do when I would go on site to fix someone. I put them into a checklist, and the checklist had 69 items that I would look at. Actually times 3, because there was a 2.4 and a 5 gig and a 6 gig, and they all had different things, how they'd answer the checklist. And then we ended up squeezing that down to just the top 20 items that are easily 95% of all the problems. And it's, in fact, you could probably cheat and drop it down to 10. Oh. It's, does a client, here, I'll give you the easiest answer, one number. In Wi-Fi, when a transmitter, could be a client, could be an AP, when it's about to transmit, it makes a decision on how it's going to transmit, which modulation, which coding scheme, which channel width, and we call it MCS for short, but it's 5 metrics on how I'm going to package up the bits I want to send and how will I use the radio medium to send them. And it makes that decision based on a whole bunch of history and why it's there and how it got here and what can the client do and what can the AP do, and there's the negotiation. But at that moment in time, that device, either an AP talking to a client or a client talking to the AP, says, I will choose this MCS. And that MCS is self-reporting on your Wi-Fi. If, like my MCS right now, I've got an MCS 10, I'm getting 1921 megabits. That's, I mean, I'm looking at it right now. That's the last frame when I just sent a word, it got packaged with the MCS. Oh, it's now a 9. It changes. Every single frame changes. So if you look at your MCS from any client or any AP talking to a client, it will self-diagnose and tell you what's wrong. I mean, that's just one. You just look there. Now, if I have a high MCS, and right now I have a 10, oh no, it's down to an 8. It doesn't matter. As long as it's one of the higher ones that I'm working on, I don't have any RF issues. So I can just look at the MCS rate and say, oh, is it a Wi-Fi issue? Because if it's a Wi-Fi issue, then I have a whole different set of troubleshooting techniques, because I have to go look at the RF contention, are the APs there, what's the channel plans, all those Wi-Fi things. If I've got a high MCS, I don't have a Wi-Fi. There's absolutely no chance of me having a bad Wi-Fi problem, because it was negotiated over and over and over again. 100 times a second, it's been chosen what to do. Actually, Wi-Fi is 20 times a second, voice. So 20 times a second, the voice frames that you're hearing coming out of my mouth are being decided on, chosen, and it's going out of MCS 10 now. That is live reporting.
You can see that in the Alta Labs platform if you go to the TXRX rate. So this is the MCS rates. It's not the actual number, but it's the actual bits per second, right? So you can see that on the TX side from the client, and then the RX side, the rates that the AP is seeing too.
And do they always match?
No.
They rarely match.
You'll want them to match, obviously, but yeah, I mean, the problem is,
I don't
like,
even want them. I don't even want them. Why would I want them to match?
Well, not necessarily. So the problem is you have your phone that has your hand around it. Usually there's a lot more interference around the transmitter on the mobile client side, right? Because there's human bodies, we're organic, whatever. So that it'll usually be a little bit less on that side. But yeah.
And that's okay. But on the flip side, antennas usually have bigger antennas, better antennas. They have MRC, which is maximal ratio combining. So they could have four spatial streams. Your client only has one, but it can put them back together. So APs hear better than clients do. But I used to chase those two numbers to make them match. Like 20 years ago, it was a challenge. How do I get these two to match? And I would be tuning the network to make a new phone came out. So I'd go back and adjust my transmit powers and my antenna placement because I wanted that to match until I realized there's absolutely zero need that those two should match. As long as the client gets what it needs when it wants it. But the reason I started on MCS is because by looking at that number, it tells us how difficult of a time the RF is having at that moment. Because many times we'll get people call and said, Wi-Fi sucks, it was terrible. And I go on site to look, it could be even 20 minutes later, and it's not the same.
Yeah.
And 20 minutes later, it's getting a good MCS. So I want to train my end users to look at that number all the time to say, oh, it was temporary. It was a Wi-Fi problem, but it didn't last very long. Most wired problems aren't that temporary. If you have a DNS issue, you're going to have a DNS issue. If you're in the wrong VLAN, you're in the wrong VLAN. But Wi-Fi is based on loads at the time. And so that's just a very quick one to look at. But I'll put a link out in here. You can get to our checklist. Anybody can take and use it. Right now, I know of at least 12 current software vendors who are using the checklist as part, they built it right into their tool because it gives you quick answers. So if you want to add it to your tool, feel free.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love it. Well, and actually, Fernie put it in here already.
In the chat.
Yeah. Landon, will you grab, Fernie put it on the StreamYard link, but we throw that into YouTube for us and Facebook, LinkedIn. You'll see it just a couple of chats. But Keith, thank you. That's obviously very helpful. What do you see on the horizon for Wi-Fi? I mean, challenges or new tech? I mean, is there anything that's got you excited or worried that you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, my worries are about, I'm kind of in an anti-marketing mode because I'm just tired of people marketing things like OFDMA. It's been around literally for 5 years. And at the last WPC in Prague, Peter McKenzie gave a presentation going, yeah, it's still not ready yet. And 3 years before that, he said, oh, look, if you turn it on, you actually get lower throughput.
Yeah.
So people talk about these things and they just don't work. BSS coloring, ooh, should be really cool. Yeah, we had a guy give a presentation. He shouldn't have, but it took 30 minutes to get to it. The conclusion was, with all the tools I have as a vendor in my lab, I got it tuned and it took 2 weeks of hard work and I got almost 10% improvement.
Yeah.
Like that's a failure. That's why no one uses BSS coloring, but marketing people still talk about it. So we hear things like 496 QAM. That's really cool, but you have to be really close.
Yeah.
And then we had Peter McKenzie and Rob Boardman did another test where they went, instead of an omni antenna, did a directional antenna in an office and had them pointing down, not in an LPV, just a regular, 3 meter high office, and got 496 QAM during roaming.
Yeah, if your antenna,
because they had hard cell edges by using the antenna to cause it. So you're like, yeah, I can't get 496. Well, you can, but now you have to do other things along the way. So I don't think there's a worry. The worry would be it keeps getting more and more complex. like all the little things are more and more complex, more options, and yet the core of it is still just the same core, hasn't changed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No need to overcome make it, or no need to make it more complex than it needs to be. Just keep it simple. Sounds like, right?
Yeah, and the other thing is people still, I shouldn't be anti-marketing so much because they would make people money. I mean, they sell product and that's how businesses are in place. It's just when they say things that aren't really true. Mm-hmm. Like moving to Wi-Fi to 6 gigahertz is hugely important. That's 1200 megahertz in the US of extra bandwidth is fantastic. We need it. One, that's going to trigger WPA3. You have to have it. You might have an MDM solution MDU solution where you have multiple dwelling units in an apartment complex, and you've been using some shared PSK, a different alternative.
Yeah.
And now you can't use the 6 gigahertz because you have that alternative.
Yeah.
And there's no easy answer to that. You have an answer. It's not really easy.
Yeah.
I wish there was an easy answer, but it's all those little teeny things that get in the way. So glad to have a career ahead of me. So I shouldn't worry, because every time it gets more complex, there's just more work. I like it.
Right. That's
I
right.
had one more question myself, Keith. I'm just really curious. I don't know. Do you do a lot of like from scratch deployments at all, or are you focused solely on fixing Wi-Fi? And what do you prefer? Like, do you like building everything from the ground up, or do you prefer going into like a major complex situation where nothing works and just fixing it?
Honestly, I get paid more for the fixing it because they spend a lot of money to put it out. And then by the time my customers call me, it's a real big pain, and then I can charge more money. So that probably 80% of my consulting is fixing other people's problems. Mm-hmm. I enjoy doing the new installs more though.
Yeah. Okay.
It just, people don't usually call me up front. And when they do, I'm like, yes, I will give you a discount because I want to work on this fun little project. So yeah, there's things there. And I think maybe it's I like moving from job to job. Yeah. And so there were seasons when I did 90% of my work was with container ships. And then the next year it was mines, and the next year it was hospitals. And so I kind of follow those along. The consistent one has been fixing bad Wi-Fi, because that's always there. Sure. And now I'm getting a little older. I'm not retiring. I don't want to retire. I like doing this. I can pick and choose the jobs that I want to take. And so I just take the fun ones.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. So if you had to pick one, like what your absolute favorite, Keith, maybe you can't share it, but you mind sharing what you can, like largest or most exotic, or what?
I've been through lots of, from slums to billionaire homes.
Sure.
And the crazy part is, this is, and ties back into what Jeff did in the very preamble of this presentation, when you showed, yeah, we can do speed test. Everyone wants a big number.
Yeah.
A billionaire is like, I have to have a bigger number than my other billionaire. Make my house this way. Yeah. Like, he brings that up. The little guy in the slum who's selling Wi-Fi for minutes, like literally you go in and you buy 7 minutes of internet connection.
Wow.
He wants fast too. It's like, show me that number. Get to have the number. The number doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The number doesn't matter. You can, if you look at the MCS table, and the very slowest possible Wi-Fi we can get today is 6 meg. That's MCS 0. 20 megahertz wide channel, the worst possible coding, the worst possible modulation, the slowest terrible things going on, and it delivers Netflix at HD quality.
6 megabits. Yeah.
One person.
Yeah. Right. But that means, okay, if we have more people, then we need to improve that. Yeah. But the baseline, so chasing this big number of this, I need to have a download number. Yeah. What I need is I want consistency. But I can't get consistency. I have a fiber to the house. I'm not even 3 meters away from my access point, which has a 2.5 gig connection to my switch, which is connected to an ag switch, which is connected to a fiber switch. I have great Wi-Fi here. I've got 1921 in the air, but there's no way I'm going to get that out of my fiber because I didn't pay for that much fiber.
Yeah.
So my fiber could be down at 100. And if I ran a speed test and only got 100, people would go, you only got 100. Like, I've never needed more than 100.
Yeah.
Who needs more than 100 meg? Nobody.
Yep.
But if it's less, like I have customers who are like, but I need it over half a gig. Like, why? They just want, they're chasing this number. So the consistency from the most expensive to the least is they want to chase that number. and the number isn't as important as does your stuff work?
That's why, yeah, I love that you've highlighted the ORB score. They get a good metric on that, the performance score. That's really more important. Is the latency good? Can I do what I need to do?
I was flying the day before yesterday, and I had an ORB score of 87 in a plane.
Oh, wow. Impressive. And
Which airline, out of curiosity?
Starlink or?
That was on Delta.
Delta.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
And it was also while everyone was sleeping. I mean, it was 2 a.m. So I'm pretty sure I was the only one there awake playing with my network.
Yeah, that's great. Well, my last question for you, Keith, is just generally about Alta. Put you on the spot just a little bit here. Is have you had a chance to use Alta at all, or have you used any of your products, or and where do you see Alta being successful?
So Fernay and I put together Fernay did most of the work. Put together a 3-day authentication class, and we use Alta Labs gear that specifically to show this is the easy way to do this one thing. In fact, we were in the middle of one in Salt Lake City with a bunch of the Utah Education Network team was in there, and PassPoint was running, and we thought we turned it all off, and somebody had just left their Alta Labs unit on, and the whole room was using that one. That was how they all joined. So it was kind of accidental. And then it was like, oh yeah, when PassPoint works, it's just fantastic.
Works great. Agreed. Well, yeah, thank you for that, Keith. Jeff, did you have any other questions for Keith?
No, I think, yeah, had a lot of fun.
Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you'd like to touch on? Any topics or any guidance for the industry?
Learn the fundamentals. Sorry.
That's good.
The more you understand how Wi-Fi actually does what it does, it's so much easier to use. People get lost in, they think it's about green, look, I did a survey and it's all green. I don't care about green. Green is just a number, and you can make neg72 look green if you want. It's who cares about that? Does the Wi-Fi do what you want it to do? And so design for that. If you need capacity, design for capacity. If you need coverage, design for coverage. You probably need both today. If you're designing for 6 gig, one word of advice. If you're designing for 6 gig, please do, but do not do a 1-to-1 replacement. It doesn't work.
It won't work.
If you're going to do 6 gig, engineer it properly the first time and you can make it work. Especially in the US, we have this problem with 6 gig. It's not a problem. It's just the way we got it. We have 1200 megahertz of channel, which is fantastic. But the FCC said clients have to transmit 6 dB lower than their AP.
Yeah.
So there's a penalty, even though the actual transmit energy, there's a difference in what's called antenna aperture. The size of the antenna for 6 gig is a little smaller than 5 gig. So 6 gig will receive less signal than a 5 gig would anywhere. I mean, that's just physics. But we're allowed with the FCC to be louder in 6 gig. So we can offset that. Great. The problem is our clients can't. Our clients are capped at 6 dB below whatever the AP transmits. They don't have a choice. So we need to think about that when we're doing our design and make sure that it works. A lot of people have just done a 1-to-1, 5 to 6 gig replacement, just replace the AP. Then they have these 6 gig holes, and then clients end up roaming between 5 and 6 back and forth, which is a pain. And they shouldn't, because they should really love 6 gig, but you just didn't engineer it right. So if you're going to go 6 gig, just go, but just do it right.
Do it right.
What I thought was most interesting in 6 gig is that you actually are allowed to transmit higher if you do wider bandwidths. And I know it has everything to do with like the skirts rolling off and everything like that, but it's crazy.
It's kind of backwards to what we're used
to. Using all the spectrum, which is great.
Yeah, so using wider channels gives you more SNR, which gives you more throughput. So yeah, that's the thing. If you understand how it works, then you can apply that and say, well, in 6 gig, we shouldn't be using 20 megahertz channels like ever. Because if we use a 40, we can get more throughput, not just double throughput, but actually higher SNR and get higher MCS rates.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely backwards from everything I've learned before that. So,
well, my apologies for just napping. You kind of triggered me. You ask questions and maybe go yap. So
it's perfect. No, I love it. I've learned something today, quite a bit, actually. I'm sure all of our audience has. So I appreciate it, Keith. And honestly, we could probably talk for hours, but I know that most of our audience probably has to get back to work, whatever else. But we've shared some links, right? Obviously, if you guys, anybody who's listening wants to check out the checklist, it's in all of the social feeds. We've also shared how to sign up for Keith's newsletter, which obviously looks like you'll get something weekly from Keith. And then, that's also how you'll learn about the WLPC events, one in the United States and one in Prague, right, Keith?
And we do one in Valencia, one in Mexico City.
Oh, wow.
We're rolling out a new we took kind of the deep dives. We took the best of for the last couple of years and turned it into a 2-day troubleshooting course. But it's a bunch of modules that were the deep dives from WLPCs. And it's a lot cheaper than going to WPC, and we bring it to you. So we're doing one in California next month. So people can just come, you get a WLAN Pi, and you get to use the tools, and you get a whole bunch of deep dives back to back to back. So that's what we're trying this year. We're going to go take it around the country and go with those. And if you're into the social side of it, you like hanging out with people, WICO, WI-CO, WICO, Peter McKenzie and Alan Blake put that together. They are more of a social based thing. You go get presentations, they have vendors, you hang out. It's a 1-day event. They're all over the globe. So if you want to go see those, and that's where you can go, find some more of your tribe you want to hang out with.
Yeah, cool. Great. Thanks for that, Keith.
Oh, they don't call it tribe. They call it the herd because their logo is an elephant. The herd.
That's wonderful. Well, and again, if any of you guys have any questions for Keith, please throw them into the whatever social platform you're at. That'll pull into StreamYard here, and we'll get them in front of Keith and Jeff and I.
Yeah, I'm glad to answer any question that comes up.
Love to. Yes, absolutely. So go ahead and do that now. I know we've got a couple questions already that we'll go ahead and loop back to, but just 2 other quick reminders. Number 1, we have a giveaway after the live Q&A. If you have not entered into that, please send your first and last name to Landon@social@alta.inc with your first and last name again. And also, our marketing team asked me to just, as we're talking about training, right, and making your kind of general acumen, networking acumen better, I wanted to point everyone towards our new base camp, which is Alta Labs training, kind of 101 course, right? It's Altitude 1000, which just gets you some basic networking fundamentals. We touch on Wi-Fi there, right? And then how Alta kind of supports that. And there'll be additional there as well. So I'm sure our marketing team will put that into all the feeds, but I'd love to have you guys check that out. That's free, right? Just to go, and it's self-paced and virtual. So, all right, let's jump to some Q&A. Let me scroll all the way to the top here. Let's see. This is, I think this is more of a funny comment, but from Stephen Powell, AP7 waiting room. Jeff, you want to maybe give a quick update on AP7 Pro? I'm sure we'll have a lot of questions on that.
Yeah, still hitting the second quarter, but it might be more mid-quarter, but trying to pull it in as quickly as we can. But definitely making a lot of progress, fixing issues, and everything's looking really good.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. And thank you for that, Stephen. Let's see. Looks like this is a question regarding that speed test feature, Jeff. This is a great setup. Can you consider tracking WAN latency and uptime so we can keep an eye on ISP quality?
Yeah, definitely. That would definitely be more of a feature request. If you want to go into the forum and create a topic, we receive votes on that. We look at the votes, and we base a lot of our roadmap based on what people vote on there. So yeah, right now there's nothing historical there, but it'll just show like the instant snapshot of latency right now. But yeah, adding a history would be cool for sure.
Agreed. Thanks, Justin. Thanks, Jeff. Another question for Steve regarding the speed test. Can it be run from iOS app? I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, it's not currently in the iOS app, but it's definitely on the roadmap. So yeah, you have to be in the web portal right now to be able to access that.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Steve. Another question on this speed test feature from Kevin. Can you also add a place to the company ISP name as a few in the area? So if an ISP goes down in the area, we can see how big it is, what the customers are in the pool.
A lot of great ideas here. So definitely, these are all things that we'll consider as we get feature requests coming in and they're voted on. But yeah, that's a great idea to be able to do a custom ISP there, because there are a lot of lesser known, smaller ISPs that I think it would be useful to aggregate that information.
Yeah, agreed. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Jeff, for that. Let's see. Next question from Russell2323. Are passkeys coming to local control?
Yeah, it is on the roadmap, but yeah, obviously not there yet. Currently, the passkey is only available on our our cloud controller right now.
That's right. Thanks, Russell. Thanks, Jeff. This is a good question. I had kind of a feeling this would come up. It's kind of interesting. Stephen, thank you for asking this. It's regarding the FCC ban. Obviously, the news, the X feeds, the Reddit feeds have just been on fire talking about what is the purpose behind this and who's going to be impacted and what's the industry going to do about it. And the reality is a couple things from Alta Labs' perspective. Number one, the information is still coming out about this. But what we do know and what we can see so far is the way that the announcements have been made and what's available on the FCC website is it is specifically targeted at routers, and it's new routers. It is open up. Initially, the news mentioned that it was focusing on a specific country like China, but it is any foreign-made router, and it is focusing on consumer-grade routers that would be entering the U.S. under a consumer-grade certification from the FCC. So from our perspective, because of the requirements that have been published so far, we don't have any issues, right? We certify our Route 10 under an enterprise certification with the FCC. It is very aggressively priced, so it can be put in homes. Obviously, it's been put in homes quite a bit, but it's just as much, if not more, put in enterprises. And so, and it's an existing FCC registration, right? If you read some of the FCC publications, it only applies to new pending, those have not received their FCC certifications. So Route 10 is certified, everything in the Alta Labs ecosystem is certified. Then obviously we're paying very close attention to our certification bodies that are independent, making sure that we always meet the requirements by the FCC, make sure that we're meeting, whatever standards are set forth so that we are not going to be restricted by this ban, so-called. But Jeff, anything you want to add there, or Keith?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to get Keith's opinion on it, but if it's helpful or hurtful or what. But yeah, as far as we're concerned, when we certify, we're enterprise grade. Most of our installs are done by MSPs or installers, so not necessarily targeting like a consumer market, even though obviously they are used in many homes. So yeah, it's definitely a different market segment than I think this is targeting. But Keith, was curious on what your thoughts are too, if you have any.
Just dealing with the FCC over the last two and a half decades, sometimes they do wonderful things like bring a 6 gig. Yeah. Sometimes they make really weird things like you shouldn't block other people. And the words they used said, well, and they even gave fines to a Marriott because they were saying, if you're not on a Marriott SSID, then we will block you. And so they got fined for doing that. And then some people said, but that was built into the Cisco code, so you should find Cisco. And they're like, well, no, because how it was applied, there wasn't a clear answer that said, okay, we actually didn't block. We accepted you, we associated you, and then we deauthed you. So is a deauth a block? And so this is just bringing back memories of all that took years to work out. They weren't really, you looked in the FCC filings, they weren't really definitive. Is it an enterprise or a home? And how do you tell the difference? And some might have got a home license, but you use it in enterprise or vice versa. And is it in, there was a time when the FCC said you couldn't use an antenna that wasn't unique to your vendor. Yeah. Because then someone might go to Radio Shack, and this is how old it was. You go to Radio Shack and pick up a really big antenna and put it on a device that wasn't rated for that size antenna. So the way to solve this is we just say every vendor has to sell antennas with unique connecters. Well, that was a pain. And I go to an N connector, then I can buy any N device, and then I'm meeting the FCC rule. So we got around the rule very quickly, and it was a silly rule. And so now almost everyone's using the same, RP SMA connectors or whatever. I think this is going to go through that same kind of cycle where it'll take a while to work out. What are they really trying to say? Who are they they're trying to punish someone. Let's figure it out, and then we can get around it. Yeah. I don't think anybody's ready to go out and go, oh, in fact, I've already heard some vendors going, well, buy our stuff that's in the store because you can buy it and you won't be able to buy it next year. And they'll make this quarter sales go up. I don't know.
Yeah. Take advantage of the panic and the chaos and the uncertainty. For sure. Well, thank you both for your input there as well. And Stephen, thank you for the question. Hank, thanks for the support on the 10 gig switches we announced last month. We're excited for those as well. Those will be forthcoming, and thanks for feedback on the additional 10 gig ports. That's one of the reasons we made it so you can stack them side by side on a 1U rack shelf. So next question from user Bernard26. Do you guys plan on having any wireless client devices like a wireless adapter? And if so, would they have the capabilities to use the 6 and 5 gigahertz to maximize speed on both frequencies?
Yeah, that's not on the roadmap currently, but we do see plenty of people putting an AP6 Pro in mesh mode and hooking it up to their laptop or like gaming system. Usually, is what they do, and that does utilize. It doesn't currently utilize both bands, but it will use the 6 gigahertz in mesh mode when AP7 Pro launches. Yeah.
I think the question is more, will you support MLO to get that extra boost?
Yeah, I mean, we might support MLO. That's definitely something that's more likely to work well in a closed system, like if we do mesh over MLO. But yeah, I mean, we learned this at WLPC. There are still a lot of hurdles with enabling MLO, and we definitely want to support it and help make it as the best that it can be. But yeah, I mean, it's not currently on the roadmap, but we do support the 6 gigahertz mesh on our APs.
It's interesting to see that, we've seen some of our competitors even come out with a client device or an adapter, right? Because some of the client devices like phones, right, don't do MLO very well or very efficiently. And so definitely, Bernard, we're looking at it, but when we introduce MLO into our AP7 Pro, we want to make sure that it works and works well. So it may not be available right at launch, right, as you see the AP7 Pros come into market, but definitely looking at it and trying to make sure that you guys are able to take advantage of the tech and the spectrum there. But
yeah, I mean, we're all about stability and reliability first, so we're not going to enable some feature that hasn't been vetted for years. So.
All right, thank you for that question. Let's see, a bunch of posts here. Fernie, thanks for the comment on the what's my webcam. I promise that's level regarding the picture behind me. I was not out of it when I heard that. Not good eyes there, Fernie.
Oh.
That's the first time someone noticed.
That's right. See, Keith's got it going on now too. Yeah. Another question from Gary. So I'm not sure if this is for WLPC or for Alta. I do know Alta is going to be in St. Louis May 14th. But Keith, does WLPC have any plans to be in or near St. Louis?
No.
Okay. Great. Thanks, Gary, for that question. Let's see. Well, this is Fernie, thank you for this. We have a 2-day WLAN Pros Wi-Fi troubleshooting class. Here's the agenda. It'll be in June. So thank you for that. If anybody's interested or in or near the Mountain View area. Keeping going here. Shout out from Hank. Thanks, Keith, for the good info. Let's see. Next question, Keith, for you from Todd Vasco. What application technology will require multi-gigabit Wi-Fi to the client?
Without a marketing hat on, I'm going to say nothing. I don't know of anything that requires multi-gig Wi-Fi to the client, other than it sounds really cool. At WPC in an evening event, we called it drag racing school buses. So, and I've actually seen school buses drag race. They make them. Awesome. It's basically a school bus shell on top of a drag racing rig, but that's not what school buses are for. Wi-Fi is to deliver what the client needs when he needs it. So when we would do Wi-Fi 7 testing to see how fast we could get it in WPC in Phoenix just a couple of weeks ago, we were able to push more than 3 gigabits live across the 5 and a 6 MLO using STR. And if you don't understand those words, that's fine. But the answer is why. one, we had to use up 320 megahertz of 6 gig and 160 megahertz of 5 gig.
Have you
Just
have
to
you
show
looked
off
at the
that you can
spectrum
do
when you're
something.
using 320? It's insane. The whole spectrum is lit up.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should. So anytime we get this multi-gig issue, now it's been years that we've talked about this. Do I need multi-gig switch ports for my access points? And the answer for me has always been no, because it's really hard to make an access point push literally more than a gig of data in a normal environment over its uplink port. But if you're buying a new switch today, why would you not buy an M-gig port? Someday you'll need it. And switch ports, they have a much longer lifespan than Wi-Fi.
Right.
So I would never upgrade an AP to I would upgrade an AP on the next cycle, but I would always upgrade any device to the latest technology at the time we're buying it, especially in the switch side, because they last so much longer. So why would I go to a gig only? Yeah, maybe for cost, but in today's market, the extra cost to go to 2.5 gigs, pretty lightweight. For cabling, I might want to test my cable, and our friends over at NetAlly have a tool called Lambert, which you can take and put on two ends of a cable pair and soak test it for 24 hours and say, well, it was a Cat 5 only, not even a Cat 5e, just a Cat 5. But I just pushed 5 gig over it for 24 hours straight and only lost 2%. I don't have to pull a new cable if I need a 5 gig connection here because I trust this cable. So multi-gig is a thing. It's true. I just don't know of any client device that needs it yet. But if you're putting in new stuff, put in M-gig. Duh. I mean, how many of your customers actually have an ISP connection greater than 10 gig? And yet you're putting in 10 gig switches. It's not because the upstream is the bottleneck anymore.
It's future proofing in it. It's also like the market. So I mean, all the chips only support the higher speeds anymore, right? So you're only going to be able to buy those chips moving forward. So yeah.
Though I would recommend everyone start with something like this. Let me pull one off here. I now only use. I mean, most things don't have ports for Ethernet, so you're going to use a dongle.
Yeah.
Every dongle I go with now has at least a 2.5 gig.
Yeah.
Because
nice.
Why would you ever want your dongle to be the bottleneck in your testing? Yeah. And these cost, I don't know, they're not enough that you'd even think twice about buying it. So I've moved to 2.5s. I have a couple 5s. I even have a couple 10s that I test with. This one's fine. So get it 2.5. This one happens to be an Anchor, but just find them that have 2.5 gig support, and then you'll know that it's not me, it's you.
Yeah. I guess, coming back to the Wi-Fi multi-gig question, the only applications I could think of are like backups. But even then, it's like once a day, maybe you could schedule it at night. If you're not wired during the night, you could.
And we still have wires in our houses. Well, you should.
Yeah.
You should.
Hopefully.
I built a new house a couple of years ago, and I have 89 Cat 6 drops.
There we go.
And I'm a Wi-Fi guy.
Yeah.
But why would I go into these billionaires' homes and they have these big, huge screens in all the rooms, and it's a brand new house, and they're running their TVs on Wi-Fi. I'm like, why? Bring a cable to it. It's so much better.
So true.
Copper beats radio waves every single time.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'd say that's another big takeaway for anybody who's maybe new to Wi-Fi. It's like, understand it's cool because you don't have to run a wire, but when you're doing a completely wireless home or business, it's congestion. Your signal noise ratio is off the charts. You're causing conflict. Wire whenever you can, so that the devices like your iPhones, your Androids, your tablets that don't have an Ethernet port on them can have a less congested environment. So
the simple rule: if it doesn't move, wire it. Right. TVs don't move.
That's a great rule.
Why would you? Fridges and washers, and there's a lot of appliances that have Wi-Fi capability. One, just stick them all down in 2.4 and you don't care about that anymore. But and I'm sure you can inside your dashboard, look and see how much traffic is going to Netflix and in someone's home. And I'm guessing the bulk of their upstream WAN connection is going to TVs, and all that congestion does not need to be in the air.
Yep. 100% agree. It's kind of crazy. And even some of the TV manufacturers, the panel manufacturers, are opting to remove their Ethernet ports, which is kind
of, don't do that.
It's like Samsung, if you're listening, LG, Sony, stop doing that, please.
Well, yeah, there's also a lot. So speaking of vendor bugs, I mean, we've dealt with a lot of bugs on TVs. So yeah, it's just always better to wire for sure.
Yeah, agreed. All right, Todd, thank you for the questions. Really good question. And actually, here we go. Yeah, Fernie, I think we addressed this already about the impact of new FCC announcements on certain equipment. There's definitely still a lot more information that's coming on that. So thank you for making sure we get touched on that. Next question from Inder. Is there any plans to have Route 10 and other Alta Labs devices to be managed locally by controller and cloud at the same time?
Yeah, no plans on that specifically right now, but feel free to make a feature request. I mean, the most immediate plans would just be to be able to access your local controller from anywhere without having to do port forwards and reverse proxying and stuff like that. So that's the first step. Anything like this would be obviously in past that. So.
Yep. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Inder. A couple more questions on the FCC stuff. I think we've made that pretty clear, so I'm going to skip through those. Anders, thanks for the Trekkie plug there and being on the Enterprise. Respect that for sure. Fauzi Bozid, I'm sorry if I just completely destroyed her name. Question regarding Alta APs. Is there a way to put them in a bridge?
Yeah, so I'm assuming you mean like a Wi-Fi mesh. They automatically will mesh as long as it's been added. You can also add a device to an existing Alta Labs network without having it being configured yet. So as long as your Alta Labs AP is within radio distance of another AP on a network, you can add it to that site. And even though obviously we preach wire all the time, we do focus quite a bit on our mesh technology and have a lot of proprietary features that allow it to use less airtime and make it more efficient when you do have to mesh. There are some cases where you might need to.
I think that would make a great white paper or a blog in how you do that, because it's fiber, copper, point-to-point RF, AP, and then mesh is the very bottom choice. It's like the worst choice of how it works. Yeah. And if you can make that go any quicker, that'd be a nice thing to learn.
No, we do have great performance on our mesh, but yeah, it's still it'll never beat wired. A wired AP, and then even that will never beat an actual physical wire.
Yep, agreed. Thanks for the question, Fauzi. Let's see. This is an interesting question. Greg, thanks for this. What's next after the AP7? Oh, boy.
Yeah, you can go back last month.
Yeah.
Last month we did our roadmap for 2026. So.
Yeah, and honestly, Greg, can't take a page out of Keith's book, right? From a marketing and fluff perspective, I mean, I love it, but I also hate it. Just wait until the end of this year. You're going to see some suppliers, some of our competitors even announce Wi-Fi 8 and, the benefits of it. And they're going to have some devices that support it. But, I mean, there's still, in our opinion, so much to be had on even Wi-Fi 7, right? And making sure that's tried, true, dialed in. And then we've got a lot of companies that are anxious to get that latest out so that they can force that upgrade cycle and realize that revenue. So, anyways, we're focused on Wi-Fi 7 for the foreseeable future.
Sure. I mean, I will say it is exciting though, because there's a lot of coding tools that everybody in like the software engineering industry is just using AI all over the place, and it's finding and fixing a lot of bugs everywhere, all the way down from the lowest level firmware stacks all the way up to the front end. So it is exciting. I think Wi-Fi is only going to get better, but it is. I think it will also get more complicated, like we've talked about.
Yep, agreed. All right, let's see. Tech Out, thanks for the comments on the multi-gig. I'm going to back up what Jeff was saying for sure. Keith, I don't know if this is an inside question or not, but this is from Anders Nilsson. Ask Keith about how faster than Nyquist signaling that will be part of Wi-Fi 9 works.
Anders, that picture of you doesn't look like you. So just saying. Stop bugging me.
Yeah, stop. That's great. Okay, let's see. More FCC questions. I think we've again addressed that. Let's see. Last question so far is from Mitchell Weissman. When should we sell the AP6 Pro versus the Summit A6? That's a good question. It's come up in the last couple of Alta Labs live stream events. So we do have a variation of AP6 Pro. It's called the Summit A6. It is very much a protected SKU. It's only available to installers. And there are some software benefits as well as some extended warranties available. And it's only available through some select distributors as well. The idea there, right, is it's we charge a higher price for it because of the extended warranty. There's some distributors that help us track that warranty program. And then there's also, when it comes online in the management platform, it shows up as a Summit A6 rather than an AP6 Pro. And has one major feature difference in that it has a gold color for SSID association, and then there'll be some additional features that are rolled out, throughout this year, perhaps that won't be available on our other access points. So we do have we don't have that on our website yet, or a knowledge base article on that, or excuse me, a data sheet on that yet. But Mitchell, if you're a professional installer and are interested in that, I would say, if you wouldn't mind, please email sales@alta.inc. And then Dallin and his team can get you some more information on Summit A6 where you can grab that. But as far as a performance, from a performance perspective, you'll see similar performance, wireless performance. As today's topic and theme is obviously Wi-Fi. It's going to be the same as the AP6 Pro. Jeff, anything you want to add there?
No, I think that covers it.
Okay. Oh, all of a sudden I got a slew of additional questions. That was weird. Sorry, hang on, guys. Let's keep going here. Let's see, wired. Let's see. A question from Ismail regarding our API. Do we provide an API?
Yeah, we do. Currently, you have to be under an NDA, which is a pretty straightforward standard NDA. But if you reach out to sales at alta.inc, they can help you through that. Definitely want to open that up more than just under NDA, but haven't done that quite yet.
Perfect. Anders sounds like he's on the same boat as us. Let's make Wi-Fi 7 work first. And then next question from Kevin, AP7 Summit. Yes, at some point this year you will see that, but it won't be probably until the second half of the year. We got a lot of demand. Our first almost 2 full production batches have been completely sold out and purchased by our distribution team or distribution partners. So we're going to catch up on demand, and then we'll look at introducing a variation of the AP7 Pro. All right, I think that is it for the questions. There's no more updates coming in. So let's jump to the giveaway. Landon, you want to throw that link at me really quick? We will we'll get this brought up here. Another question came in as I'm getting this link pulled up. With the increase in Wi-Fi usage, what plans and strategies are being developed to reduce interference, congestion, and keep networks efficient?
So a lot of that, I mean, Keith can speak to this too, but a lot of that is just educating the admin on what Spectrum looks like. And so we do have tools in there that show you what the channel utilization is on all your APs. Our channel planner takes all that into consideration as it builds its channel plan nightly and takes a look to see if there's anything it can do to improve things every day. And that's already been ported to our AP7 Pro, which, was a lot of work, but it's very important to make sure that we, out of the box, like the APs need to choose the best channels possible and adapt, right? If you have a lot of APs, you need to use narrower channels. So, I mean, there are some keys you can give it to kind of hint at what you want, but out of the gates, we believe, our solution, our channel planner does really well at avoiding interference and congestion.
Keith, anything you want to add from your side?
Use the widest channel you can until you can't. And when you know you can't is when your channel utilization goes up. So it sounds good to use wider channels because you get bigger throughput numbers. Woo! But I would much rather have 2 APs on 2 20 megahertz channels than 2 APs on 40 megahertz channels that share anything, because my net throughput is higher. It's kind of counterintuitive. You will get lower speed test scores, but you'll have a more stable network. And that's, as Jeff said, when your channel utilization climbs, it needs to drop down to narrower channels. That's just how to fix it.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Yeah, great. Thank you both for that, Keith and Jeff. And Humberto, thank you for the question. Justin, thank you for the support on relentless pursuit of Wi-Fi excellence. That's for sure in our mantra. One other question snuck in before we throw up the prize wheel. Any plan to add AI troubleshooting?
Well, I'll announce right now that I'm actually not here. You produced me. I've been AI for the last hour.
Yeah. That'd be pretty cool. Real-time AI.
He's the real lobster anyway.
Yeah.
No, we do. I mean, we don't have plans right now, anything on the roadmap right now for AI-based troubleshooting, but you can definitely, we have logs available. It's very easy to download the logs, like from your entire network in our platform, and you can hand that off to ChatGPT or anything else, and it's it's very helpful for doing that, but it's not built into the platform, and we don't have that in the roadmap, at least right now.
Thanks, Jeff. And thank you, user Jim. I'm not even gonna try. I'm sorry, I don't want to be insulting there. Thank you for the question. All right, let me pop my screen here really quick. We'll go ahead and start with the S12, and then we'll go to a shirt and then a hat. And well, we got to take Landon's creative privileges away from him here, Jeff.
What's it gonna look like?
Yeah,
Oh,
we got mustaches today. All right, for the S12, was this in paint, Landon? I feel like you could have done a little better. All right, here we go. For the S12, lucky winner is Steve Melanik. Congratulations, Steve. Landon will take a record of that, and he'll reach out and get a shipping address for you. Get that S12 sent out. Now for the shirt, we've got, looks like Colin Morgan. Congratulations, Colin. And then for the hat, Stephen. Oh, congrats, Stephen. Great work on that. Landon will also be in touch on that. All right. Well, in conclusion, Keith, thank you again. It has been, I know I've learned a lot. I'm sure all of our viewers have. I'm sure Jeff has. But thank you for being with us. Before we sign off, is there anything else you want to touch on or leave with our audience?
Love life. Enjoy.
Yeah.
Share knowledge.
Yeah,
That's all you need.
Great.
Agree.
Thanks, Keith. Jeff, how about from your side?
No, just want to say thanks again to everybody, all you Alta Lab fans out there. Thanks for supporting us. Hopefully this was helpful, and we love working with you.
Yeah, agreed. Echo the same. Again, thank you, Keith. Thank you, Jeff, both for being here, and all of you for taking time. I know some of you are awake in the middle of the night watching this, being with us. So thank you again for that, and thank you for your support as well. We look forward to seeing you next month, which will be our 19th live stream event. We'll actually be inviting Chris Beekler from from Jeff's team, actually, to talk about our routing line and some of the fun things that are not only been deployed in that, but then what will be coming. So again, thank you, and we look forward to seeing you in the month of April.
Thank you. See ya.